via Zoom and for visiting the Empowerment website. I'd like to extend a special welcome to everybody that listening to us live around the world on our digital platforms of EmpowerWorks, YouTube, Instagram, and at Empowerment, Twitter at Empowerment, Facebook at Empowerment, and the hashtag that we are using this afternoon and for all these talks is I am Empowerment. Mbuyiselo Botha is a commissioner at the Commission for Gender and Equality and also a speaker. I'm going to hand over to him now to take us through his 25 minutes presentation that he'll wrap up in 30 minutes. Over to you, Mbuyiselo Botha.
Well, thank you so much, Chaba, for the opportunity. But I must also say that I want to pay a special tribute and thanks to the founder of EmpowerWorks, the managing director, but someone who is the brain behind Empowerment and the speaker's firm, Mr. Masiza. I think this is opportune for us to do what we're doing now. Chaba, as you pointed out in your introduction, that we must change the narrative of, labeling men, continuing with the narrative that, but men are dogs, men are beyond reproach, we can't work with men, we can't work for men. I think that needs to be changed. But it can only be changed by us, men, by engaging in such conversations. So one has got to say that Simpio has been a visionary leader insofar as focusing sharply on especially the C-suits, the CEOs and other men in our country who ordinarily we tend to not engage in these dialogues. Let me start off by asking the question which I want to address. Why is it that we're seeing the escalation of GBV in our country? I mean, the statistics tell us that, and this were released a while back by the Minister of Police, that there's been an upsurge into GBV, gender-based violence. That is violence that we know is primarily perpetrated by men against women, or violence that is perpetrated against gays, lesbians, intersex, purely and simply because of the sexual orientation. But my focus this afternoon is what is it that in fact has led to this upsurge of GBV in our country as we speak during the lockdown, COVID-19. And I want to submit this afternoon that we, in fact, violence against women, violence against children, violence against men has always been in the rise, especially that which impacts women, to say, has always been the rise. But maybe it's highlighted because of the following reasons. Number one, for the first time in the history of this country, we are faced with the lockdown. That means that we are in uncharted territories. It means, therefore, that this is out of the mainstream, out of the convention. It's for the first time in the history of this country, especially, not even post-apartheid, but even before then, that you have a lockdown of this nature, which is necessitated by what one would call a disease beyond our control. But one of the main reasons why we've seen the escalation is that we have not had an opportunity to stay, as couples, be they same-sex, be they heterosexual, for these extended periods of time. This has never happened. Now, why then are we seeing, someone can ask, why are we seeing it rising up? And I want to submit that it's mainly because we ordinarily, we've had escape routes. I mean, a lot of us, men, women, who you would go to work as one of the, you'll find you would escape from your situation. And how best do you do it? You go to work, it's from 8 to 5. And you come back, you also escape by going to the gym. So there's always been these underlying tensions that we're not able to confront because of the busy schedule. And other than the gym, other than our work, we also escape that I'm going to see, I'm going to make it a point that I'll come back late because my situation at home is rather toxic. Now all of you either go and see Majita, or Ploma Majita, I can do Owen scene. I want to go and kill Paula because this situation at home, I as a man, I can't tolerate it. I don't also want to confront it. So what do? I escape to either I go to the pub, I go to the bar, I go and see, I go to the gym. But then I when I come back, it's late. The spouse has retired. So and there's been this bubbling thing that we have not also been able to talk about. But secondly, then, what do I do? What do we both do, rather, is that I am not able to go to the gym. I'm not able to go to church. I'm not able to go to the pub. I'm not able to go to the nearest Chisanyama where I'm going to blow Mlimajita and let off the steam. Now, what do I do then, or what do we both do? It then creates an environment where she would think, or I would think, that look, here's an opportunity to confront that which you have not been able to confront. But unfortunately, none of us are ready to talk in a language that we both could not be confrontational. This has been simmering. This has been going on. Now, what do I do now? What we both do, rather, is that we then find an opportunity to headbutt. We find an opportunity to, in fact, let off the steam. But thirdly, because we are now back at home, both of us, thirdly, we as men, and I want to argue this afternoon, as men, we have not been taught, we have not been socialized, we have not been trained to deal with anger. None of us, when you look at even our physiological makeup, when you look at our socialization, we have always been taught that you must take it on the chin. Don't show emotions. Don't express emotions. The one set of emotion that you are allowed, permitted, encouraged to show is that of being a macho, that of being violent, because then you must reassert. You must reaffirm your position, your powerful position. You must then show who, in fact, is in charge of this family, who is the head of the family. And one of the best ways you deal with that is to use that from childbirth. From childbirth, we've been orientated, we've been socialized to know that, in fact, you are the stronger one, you are more powerful in the relationship. Now you must shut her up. You must shut her up, because then that's the only language that we've been taught to use against those that, by the way, we don't agree with. And this applies not only to in heterosexual relationships, it also applies to same-sex relationship, where you would also have these lines that are drawn, that this is male, female in the relationship. So what is most common in all of our relationships is that the inability to seek help, the inability to deal with anger. Because if you recall earlier, I'd argue, and I continue to argue, that the best way that we would use to deal with any disagreement is I will just go and steam it off. Now here it is. I am not able to go to all of those places. Now I can't lock her out. I can't lock him out. We are both locked in this situation, and tensions are high. There's disagreement, and again, I think that the fourth point I want to raise is that because we are then, I can't lock her out. She also, because they are also, and we must accept that there's been a training, or the socialization also of the women in the world, that they have the gift of the gap. Now, what does that mean? That they are able to continue to talk, they are able to raise issues, which we as men, more often than not, find those uncomfortable. We are not ready, we have not been emotionally prepared to, in fact, confront. Now, what happens, and then we lock horns, because here's a woman on the one hand who says, but we need to sort this out. But here's a man who says, but look, I think I'm not ready to talk. here's a man who actually sits there and says, but let's postpone this. We can talk about it and deal with it. I'm not yet ready. And then she comes up and say, but when are you going to be ready? And when is your ready? What makes you ready? We're in here, we're a couple. There's no way that we're not going to talk about today. What does that lead to? It then leads to confrontation. What this confrontation leads to, it then leads to violence. By the way, there's also an element that because we can't say that there's absence of alcohol or substance abuse during this time. You may find that I've had in my stock, in my home, I've had beverages that I've not been able to use. Now suddenly they become an outlet. Then they become they become like a recreation. And what happens is that when I sense that there's always been this element of being disrespected, that she can't keep quiet. She doesn't know who is in control, who's in charge. Now, what do? I want to lock her mind and lock her mouth shut. I want to shut her up. What do? I will actually say that, look, plug. Canavase or na autiki mangan kunye VS and what like for decades. What am I going to do is I'll just take few thoughts that remnants of what I might have had 6 months ago. I then recall that, what, because I'm not trained to deal with my own demons, or I'm not able to deal with anger or emotions that have pent up. Now, because I know her, that she goes on, and what I will do is I'll go back to the place that I know best, get inside the house. I mean, and I can raise who in fact is in charge, is in control. And I am also, whilst there's this battle, there's this fight, kids try and intervene, I then tend to them, she then tends to them, but unfortunately, as it is now, the outlets that one would use, or services that one would use to seek and get help or assistance, like your counseling services, some of them are not operational. Some of them are not part of the essential services. So we are locked down, and we have to continue dealing with our own disagreements, and we are not able to have the third party, because if we are using our in-laws, they are not able to visit. If I phone them, one party would argue that, look, this is a domestic matter. Why do you get them involved? And in the process, it means the violence escalates. The violence escalates. Now, these services are not there. But also, the one thing that I think we have not been able to do as men, the majority of us, which I go back in our socialization, we have never been trained that it's okay to seek help. It's okay to say that, look, I don't have answers. It's okay to say, I feel vulnerable. It's okay to say that, look, I'm emotionally weak. I can't deal with this situation. All of those where you think that you are vulnerable, where you think that you're weak, where you think that you are unmanly. In fact, you are encouraged not to exhibit those, to even verbalize them, because when you do, then you are termed that you can't be a sissy. This is not how a proper man behave. This is not how masculine men behave. How do they behave? They show who. In fact, what do they do, or how do they behave? They reappropriate their power. They reappropriate their position in the family. And how best do you reappropriate that your position as a man? You do it is simply by, in fact, being violent to those that to that one who you consider to be a weakling. But unfortunately, all of these things, you have institutions in our society that have made us to be where we are. Institutions that continue to support either support violence, because I mean, if you check, I mean, those that are in traditional settings, I mean, your traditional house of leaders would support this. Your religious leaders would actually support by saying that the wife must submit. If she doesn't submit, there must be consequences. And I'm just saying that these institutions, all of them, they do not support a equality or equitable way of dealing with disagreement or with violence or with in the family or within relationships, because they are geared towards making sure that it is men who will continue to remain powerful, it's men who will continue to sustain and retain their power. So what then do we do during lockdown is we go back to the what I call the social scripting. The social scripting, which is that, look, you remain the center of power, you remain in control in the family, and the woman or the man or the woman in the relationship, she is always reminded that, you know, you did not you did not bring yourself here. You are in this family because, especially in heterosexual relationships, you are here because I married you. You are here because I paid dowry. You are here because I paid lobola. Now, if you deviate from the set rules, and what are those set rules? The set rules are that you will always have to submit. It is I who's in charge, who's in control. Now, if you deviate or you are seen, or there's a perception that you are becoming an African, you are becoming Eurocentric in how you talk to me, in how you engage me, you then go, because we are locked down, we are not able to go out to seek help. What then you do is you go back, or you revert back to that which you know best. And some would ask, what is it that you know best? Is that you really have to make sure that you quieten her, you silence her. Because we know, we've been taught that if you silence her by a word of mouth, she will respond. We're always told that, look, she will respond, and when she will, if you say 2 or 3 words, she will respond or retort by what you are saying with 4,000 words. I mean, there's also some arguments, or there's a narrative that women would say certain about 2,000 words, you know, per minute, and men are not able to do this. Now, what you do is we've always been taught that, look, the best way to make sure that she does not say all of those words to undermine your dignity, to undermine your authority in the home. Make sure that she knows who is in charge. Make sure that she knows that who is in control, who's the man of the house, and how best do you do it other than quietening her, other than shutting her up. But also, because a woman has also been taught or has been socialized to, in fact, know that I can rise up. There's gender equality, there are laws, and some would argue and say, look here, I will. This is my right. This is my agency. I, as a woman, I will not keep quiet. I will not allow you to, in fact, to disrespect me, to undermine me. I will, in fact, speak up, because I will also reappropriate my agency. That's why, more often than not, as men, you'd hear men saying, but you see, this democracy has in fact undermined who we are as men in our own homes, because now we are disrespected, we are undermined, because some argue because of the Domestic Violence Act, which promulgated in 1998. Some argue that this act and others, marital rape, men argue that, look, all of these laws in our country, they serve one purpose only. It is to undermine men. It is to emasculate men. Some say that not only figuratively. Some argue that all of these things are in place to undermine men. And there are talks, when you talk to men in different forums, men would actually say, but you know, because all of these laws are in fact fight with us, to in fact reduce us to nothingness, or to be less of a man. What do we then do? We would make sure that we will make sure that we stop women in their tracks. Now, these are the genesis, or some of the factors that contributes largely to the GBV that we find in our homes during lockdown, because these are pent up emotions. These are feelings of being undermined, either from the husband, either from the partner, who argues that, look, for a very long time I've let this, to go on and on. Now that I'm here, probably it's opportune, probably it's prudent for me to prove to her and to reassert my power, so that she ultimately knows that where is the center of power in this relationship. And if we don't, as empowerment, if we don't empower men, if and in a very positive manner, and if we don't do that, this escalation of violence will continue post COVID-19. But then what do you do? Someone listening to my presentation would ask you, then Mbuyiselo, what do we do then? What is empowerment doing? What is it that the speaker's firm can do? There are many things we can do to intervene. One of them is that we need to create these such platforms where I, as a man, can know that I have a man, I have a brother who can be my keeper. I, as a man, I can pick up a phone and say to a brother, I am at my wit's end. I can pick up a phone and say to a brother, I am vulnerable. I'm not able to deal with the situation. These are uncharted, waters. This is unconventional. I have never sat with my partner for almost 30 days, locked in same place. So what do I do then? I am arguing that this afternoon, what empowerment, what Speakers Forum seeks to do is that we need to break the silence, especially us as men. And breaking the silence is knowing that I can pick up a phone, knowing that I can pick up a phone and talk to another brother, knowing that it's okay to be vulnerable, so that we then begin to engage men that there is nothing wrong to feel or to feel vulnerable. In fact, it is okay. It's something that we must encourage. Must encourage men to verbalize continuously, because in doing so, men would find it in their hearts to seek help. But also, we must continue to say to men that, look, there are certain things there are certain cultural practices, there are certain religious practices that we should never allow them to define who we are. We should never, how we were brought up. There is this, what I call, a toxic script that we were handed to when we grow up. From the cradle, you grow up with this toxicity as being part and parcel of your DNA. So I think we must reach a point with empowerment and Speakers Firm to actually continue to say, but look, we can reject these scripts. That these scripts are in fact these scripts are not only dangerous to those that we profess to love, but also even ourselves. And by that I mean that it is possible for us as men to reject patriarchy, because patriarchy as a system, it does not only oppress the oppressed women only, or it does not oppress gays, lesbians, it does also oppress us as men, because then it denies us a natural ability to come into terms with being real human beings. I've never seen a system where you're hurting. A system says to you, you are not hurting. It's when you are vulnerable, when you don't have answers, when you feel weak, when you want to cry, a system that says, but no, don't seek help. But no, you are not vulnerable. A system that says, no, you are not weak. You are emotionally strong. I have never seen a system that really debases us emotionally. What it does is it puts a strain on our emotions. Now, during the COVID-19, I want to submit this afternoon that, us as empowerment, us as Speakers Firm, we have an opportunity, and all of us as men, to say that these things should not really define us, and we should not do them in the name of culture, in the name of religion. We should not do them in the name of being a real men, in the name of being real Africans, that we, in the name of us saying we reject these Eurocentric approaches, because there's nothing African about being violent. There's nothing African, I would argue, about being macho. In fact, there's much more when we as men say that this afternoon we would do anything in our power to seek help. I'll pick up a phone to say, I am hurting. I'll pick up a phone and say, things are not well. It's the past 30 days where there's no income at home because of the lockdown. What do I do? That even if I open up to my partner, it does not make me less of a man. If I open up that, look, I will go and approach the UIF. I'll go and approach food parcels, that things are bad at home. I have not been able to get help. That all of these things, when we seek help, when we verbalize the emotions that we think may characterize us as being less of a man, that it's okay to actually confront them, to verbalize them, and to seek help. That being silent in the lockdown, COVID-19, in fact, it perpetuates this stereotype that men were born violent. And I do not agree that we are born violent. In fact, violence is something that we learn, which means that it's something that we can unlearn. But we can't unlearn it in the 30 days. This is an ongoing, it's actually a marathon, it's not a sprint. That is why part of the work that empowerment does is on a continuous basis to engage men, because it's not a sprint. I mean, the years of being socialized to think in a particular way. Obviously, we can't deal with those years in about 30 days. We would need to engage these programs as on an ongoing, where in our 30 floors, where our trade unions get involved, where our churches, our religious leaders, they get involved, where there are spaces where men are, the spaces that are created for men to be vulnerable and for men to share with other men and to seek help, and seeking help in more meaningful ways, and not just to tick a box, where empowerment programs are allowed in all of these spaces post COVID-19. I want to end off by saying that we have an opportunity as communities, we have an opportunity as men in particular to say that no violence will be perpetrated in my name. But equally so, one has got to say that our women folk, there's a role that they can play. And what is that role? And I want to say that this afternoon, the role that our women folk in relation with us can play is to support me when I'm going through a bad spell, to support me in that lockdown when she realizes that I am not able to open up. Sometimes to actually give me space. Sometimes when you may not agree with my vulnerability, but just to acknowledge that's the support that our women folk can do, must do, and they're able to do. That women also in all of these, they just can't be spectators. They have a role to support us. They have a role to encourage us. If I am at my wit's end, I show what is ordinarily termed unmanly. Probably I'm in my corner during the lockdown. I am emotionally overwhelmed. I'm crying. I seek help. It's important for the woman in my life to, in fact, not be disparaging. It's important for the woman in my life to take my hand and to say in very silent ways that it's okay to feel the way you're feeling because you are human. It's okay to be vulnerable because you are human, because you are made of flesh and blood. So it's important that women in our lives are able to be conscious of the role that they can also play sometimes in perpetuating this violent lockdown. And by the way, let me add, so that I'm not misinterpreted, I will not blame the victim, but I'm just saying that we're in this thing together. We're in this thing together. If I feel I feel low, if I feel like I am at a place where I need help, I may not be able to verbalize because of our own training, our own socialization. But I think she has a duty, she has a role to play. That look, Daddy, look, Mbuyiselo, I am here to journey with you. I'm here to walk with you, so that I don't feel bad about exhibiting or showing my emotions. I will end here with my presentation. I hope that we'll be able to either take questions, or I would come back and Chaba, share with you my final thoughts.
No, thank you so much. Like everything else, we can only share so much within a very short period of time. Conversations are continuing on our social media handles at EmpowerWorks on YouTube, as well as at EmpowerMen on Instagram, Twitter at EmpowerMen, and the hashtag #EmpowerMen. Dr. Botha, always when you share, it's as if I'm hearing you for the first time. I continue to be inspired by your passion to take this challenge head on. I'm continue to be inspired by how you frame this complicated conversation, holding us in our heart, in your heart, with compassion, and not assigning blame to anyone, but to say we are all in this together. Let's reject the scripts that you have been given. I'm gonna open the mic for everybody just to wave you out and thank you with all those claps from the bottom of the heart. Thank you.